before I jump into my set, it's important you guys know this is my actual voice, okay? I know what I'm working with. I know what I sound like. Just recently, someone told me that I sound like COVID. Yeah, no, to be clear, they didn't say you sound like you have COVID. They were like, buddy, you sound like the whole pandemic. That's... This voice is not my fault. I was born with half a heart. And during one of the 3 open heart surgeries that saved my life, the doctors hit a nerve in my chest that paralyzed my vocal cords. And I get asked about my voice a lot. I get a lot of comments. It doesn't really bother me. Just recently, I was parking my car in Hollywood, and a homeless guy walked up to me with a lighter in his hand. And he was like, hey, man, do you have a cigarette? I was like, oh, no, I'm so sorry, I don't. And the second he heard my voice, I just saw confusion on his face. And he said, are you sure? Something you guys probably don't know about the disabled community is that the divorce rate among parents of disabled children is really high, which makes sense because when you're dealing with something that's stressful, it's probably hard to focus on your marriage and your relationship. But for some reason, when I was diagnosed, my parents knew that. And so when I was diagnosed at 6 weeks old, my mom said that they quite literally took me from their arms, my parents' arms, and rushed me into surgery. And my mom said that she turned to my dad and grabbed him by the shoulders and said, this isn't gonna bring us apart. And when my mom told me that, I was like, wow, you immediately made it about yourself. Like, I'm sorry. I was in the other room fighting for my life. And all you could think about was your little boyfriend at the time? Like, that's crazy. And that is what I call my father, just mom's little boyfriend. You know? I take 5 meds for my heart daily, and all the meds I take are mostly for elderly people with heart problems. And the reason for that is the surgery I got is relatively new. So we didn't used to make it as long as we do now. But as now that we started to get older, they were like, oh shit, we don't have meds for these kids. So they started giving the meds they give to older people with heart problems, and they just chuck them at us to see what will work. Like, I've been in doctor's offices when prescribed a new med. I've been like, oh, great, so this will help my heart pump long term. And they were like, who's to say? Who's to say? I was like, kind of thought you were, but... One of the meds I take is called furosemide, and furosemide is a Lasix. Lasix are the meds that make you pee a lot, and furosemide is so good at making me pee that it's where the phrase pee like a racehorse comes from. Yeah, horse owners used to give furosemide to their horses to make their heart pump better during races. But this was cheating, and judges would find out if they were cheating if the horses were peeing a lot, hence the phrase. And taking meds normally prescribed to Secretariat is not as fun as it seems. One downside is that it's a lot harder for me to make fun of anti-vaxxers. Because when the vaccine came out, everyone was piling on jokes, right? Everyone was like, oh man, these people don't trust science. And I was like, yeah, they don't trust science. And then people were like, oh, they want to inject themselves with bleach. And I was like, yeah, bleach, that's crazy. And then people were like, ivermectin, that's for horses. And I was like, well, hold on. Who are we to judge, honestly? I mean, have you ever seen the Kentucky Derby? Beautiful creatures. Let's save our judgment, huh? I was recently in San Diego for my friend's bachelor party, and we were coming back late Friday night, and I was the DD. We had just gotten pizza, and I parked in this little alley. And in order to get out of this alley, I had to do this 5-point turn. As I was doing this 5-point turn, this large group of men moved from the blockaded part of the alley to the opening. And right at the opening, like a huge fight broke out. And we couldn't move. Like, there were 20 to 30 men completely surrounding my car. So like, we couldn't move, we couldn't get out, we didn't know what to do. And my favorite part of the fight, if I had to rank it, was probably when someone in the fight tried to help me with my 5-point turn. Like, he had just gotten shoved. He was like, "What's up, bitch?" Saw my car. I was like, "Oh." So the fight's escalating, and it's not stopping, and more people are getting involved. I remember these 3 huge body men are trying to get in the middle of it. They're tearing people apart. And then the next thing we hear are gunshots. And there are 4 or 5 gunshots, and me and all my friends duck, and luckily none hit my car. And then the next thing I remember is just hearing police sirens. And in my head, I was like, okay, people have probably scattered, like, it's over. But for the police, they just hear gunshots and see 4 men in the car. So they rush our car with guns drawn on all of us. And they're like, hands up, is there a gun in the car? And we're like, no. And they're like, driver, get out of the car. So I get out of the car, they have me put my hands up, walk backwards, and then they put me in handcuffs. And they start to do that one by one to all my friends until I get to my last friend, Pedro. And they have Pedro get out of the car, and they say, put your hands up. And Pedro's turned back from all of us, and he starts to put his hands up, and we all notice in his right hand is still a slice of pizza. And the police have to go, drop the slice of pizza. So he drops the pizza, we get on the curb, and this very stern-looking policewoman walks up to me, and she was like, hey, we're gonna have to search your car. And I was like, got it. And she was like, so, can I search your car? And I was like, yes. Are there any guns in your car? I said, no, I have no weapons in my car. She said, okay, I'm gonna go search it. And I want to be clear, I know that stereotyping in police is a very sensitive topic. But I will say the first thing she checked in my car was my middle console. And she found my old high school stash of a cappella CDs. And after she found those, she kind of stopped searching my car. Like, after she found those, she barely looked at the back, didn't open the trunk, gets out of the car and goes, looks like we're looking at the wrong place, wrong time here. In her head, she's like, listen, no one owns the soundtrack to Pitch Perfect and a gun, you know? I'll end it on this. I really like talking about my disability on stage. It's been very cathartic for me. And if you have a disability, if you have a heart condition, and you want to talk about it after the show, I'd love to. But just make sure that it's I want to be sensitive here, make sure that it's a real disability. A few months ago, I had someone come up to me after a show and they were like, oh my God, I have a heart condition. I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome, what is it? And they were like, when I was a baby, I had a little heart murmur, but that ended up being nothing and I'm fine now. I was like, oh, that doesn't count. That's like if I walked up to someone with dyslexia and I was like, when I was a baby, I couldn't read. But, then I learned. And I mean, now I'm pretty good at it, but we're the same. You and I, we're the same. All right, I'm Matt. Thanks so much.